This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, the voice of the music biz. I am Tim Dolbear, your host, coming to you live from Eclectica Studios in Austin, Texas. And it has been an extremely busy time here at the studio, which is just an incredible blessing we are so thankful for. And today, I've been waiting for the show for a long time. I get to have one of my friends on, and we're going to chat about all kinds of things. But first, let me give a couple shout-outs. I want to give a shout-out to Blackbird Academy, hands-on training for studio and live sound, as well as Source Connect by Source Elements. They're the people who actually make this possible, where I can sit in Austin, Texas at the studio, and the station can be in San Diego, and everything works. It's a wonderful setup. Well, in 2 weeks, we have coming up a show that you don't want to miss, especially if you're into classical music or live recording. This just is going to be an incredible show. I have 19-time Grammy Award winner, it might be more than that now, and classical music producer of the year multiple times. A good friend of mine, one of the nicest guys in the business, Mr. Stephen Epstein, will be on air with us, and we'll be taking questions and talking about all kinds of stuff. So thank you for all the letters of support and not support and everything else that you want to send us. We appreciate hearing all of it. So send us the good, the bad, the ugly, and you got my contact information, Tim at timdolbear.com, or you can find me at the Sound Experience webpage that is on Intertalk Radio. So intertalk.com/sound experience. You're probably there right now listening, so you know where to go. Also, there's links on there to my blog, which has all the latest updates on studio stuff, as well as our crazy rebuild of our mastering quarter-inch deck MCI nightmare that we're in the middle of, which is fun, and there'll be a new update this week. So check it out, and always reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you and talk to you. All right, well, that's enough of the stuff. So let's move on to the fun stuff. Today, I have on a great friend of mine, 4-time Grammy Award winner, audio engineer and mastering engineer, Mr. Joe Palmaccio. How are you doing today?
Hey, Tim. I'm great. How are you?
Doing really good. How's Nashville?
It's cooled off because we had a big rainstorm today, so it's been kind of hot and steamy lately. But which I know you're familiar with down there in Austin.
Yeah, we get a little bit of that. Actually, I think Nashville gets it worse. Did you make it out to the NAMM show?
Yeah, I was there on Thursday, and I'm happy to say it seems to be bigger than ever. I was told that there were over 500 exhibitors there this year, so I think that's nice. a record for the Music City Center setup. So we're happy about that because, of course, we want the NAMM show to be successful in Nashville and be successful, period. So it was a great day.
Awesome. We'll go completely down a rabbit hole with this. Did you see anything of interest that caught your eyes? Either mastering, recording studio stuff, or even drum stuff, since I know you're a very accomplished drummer.
Yeah, it's funny. To me, for me anyway, it wasn't a super show where I saw lots of new products, but it was a great show to sort of connect with a lot of people that I, typically only see at these shows. Musicians who are just in town and make a point of coming to it, and so it was more of a catch up for me. And it had a great energy, though. I will say that everybody who was there seemed to sort of be excited. Sometimes the trade shows, they have a mood, and it's not always great, but this year was really good. So I'll say the mood was the best part.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. One of the things that we were going to talk about today was also about building community and contacts and stuff like that in this industry. Yeah. Because everyone works so independently. We don't necessarily work in a studio compound anymore. Everyone's working by themselves. So these events are so incredibly important for networking. And I know both of us have talked many times about how NAMM is great for that, and the AES show is great for that. And AES is going to be in Los Angeles again this year. Big. Are you going to make it out to any of those shows? Great.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. I know that, of course, the Winter NAMM show is always in Anaheim every January, and I always make it a point to go into that because what has happened over the years, of course, typically NAMM was about musical instruments first and foremost, but it's become sort of all-encompassing to include every aspect of music creation and whatnot.
Right.
And so I tend to make that one a must-do because some of my friends in the manufacturing business who are from the Pacific Rim, they only come to the United States for that show, and I like to see them, and some of my European friends too. So I'll probably make it to both. The AES show is kind of a smaller show, and it's obviously centered more around the engineering aspect of it, and so there's a lot of folks there, exchanging ideas about how do we do things today, and also celebrating how we did things in the past too, and it's sort of a nice balance of that. And I have a feeling I've been talking to some of the organizers of AES this year, and I think the technical track is going to be pretty impressive this year. I think there's going to be a real big effort to talk about a lot of relative topics, from things like streaming, and not just that we're streaming, but like what is going on with audio and streaming, what is exactly happening to our music as it gets streamed down all these services, and that's of course of particular interest to me, being in the mastering business. So yeah, I'm excited about both, and again, always good to see friends, and always good to learn something too.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to try to make it out to it. It's so important for networking for me. And for me, I've always had a lot of great success at the AES show, but at NAMM, most of the time I've usually been tied to a booth, and possibly I'll be tied to a booth coming up for the next NAMM show and or maybe of an AES, I don't know. But it'll be in a different sense where I can still get out and network. And
yeah, absolutely. And I always, too, like one of the things that both of these shows are fantastic for, and something, your listeners may be aware of or may like knowing, and that is that there's the great sort of networking aspect of the shows. And of course, that's something you and I take advantage of when we go. But there's fantastic educational opportunities. And the NAMM show has, I would say, like if you're sort of more of a musician, novice recordist, there's probably a lot of information for you. There are a lot of, educational tracks that, speak to musicians, maybe people who aren't full-time engineers. And then, of course, if you are a full-time engineer, the AES, of course, really caters to that, people with a lot of experience and sort of talking about, advanced techniques and solutions to problems. So, there's the networking and the educational side, and they make both of these things just so incredibly valuable, and other events like them. So, I so agree with something you said earlier, that is a big part of community building, and that, boy, now more than ever, I do feel like, we need community, because I sort of believe in that phrase, like, all ships rise, as the tide goes up. So, I'm a big supporter of community and building community. And that's something that we can do when we get together at these events. That's why they're important.
Yep. Just a heads up, I've been having some technical issues on my end with signal cutting out. So if you get to the end of a sentence and it's just dead air, my producer, Tino, will be popping on to take my spot while we're figuring out what the issue is in the background. So anyway, yes, I am exactly. And I'm trying to juggle that at the same time. So pardon my split personality while I'm trying to do some juggling. Well, great. And more about the community, because it's strange. The last couple shows, we actually have talked about building the community. We actually talked about it with Moses Avalon, who wrote the book, A Confession of a Record Producer. And we also talked about it last week with Mark Rubel from Blackbird, where the same thing you said, as the tide rises, all the ships rise. It's so important to build these things, help out, build each other up, which is one of the reasons I've always been into teaching, and one of the reasons why I like doing the show. I work now as a mixing engineer primarily, and the people I work with are mostly producers that are either arranger producers or traditional producers, and they're sending me their work for mixing. So having that kind of network to support them and help build them up, ultimately, of course, builds me up and helps build my business too. So it's so important at every level, just meet and greet and, hey, I know this person, to building the working relationship a little bit deeper. So what's some of the latest trends that you've had in customer request? Have things changed over the years since everyone works independently?
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I would say this is the thing that I really noticed very recently. And I would say, right now, going back maybe the last year or two. And that is, I have all sorts of clients that I work with who, they'll call me and they'll ask about mastering services. And of course, that's sort of my primary thing. But they will want to know, they'll be like, hey, you know what, I'm stuck. I've got 6 songs here, and the 4 of them, I just can't get the mixes right. Can you help me? And so, of course, I love it because I can jump in and I have, many mixers that I know, yourself included, who I can recommend them to based on, what their stylistic needs are, their geography, the genre, whatever it is. So that's something that in the past, I would say that's something that today we're doing all the time. And so I'm having, conversations with engineers where usually I would have been like, hey, the mixes you sent are great. We're all good. Now I'm kind of like, hey, I'm going to send a client your way, and he's got tracks, and he needs edits and vocal tuning and this and that. And so then that guy then, of course, turns to his crew. I may know mixers where they have a guy who does their tuning for them. So now, one client through me now knows 3 other engineers who are now working on his project, his or her project, just because of this kind of, network of people that I know and the community that we've created. And it's funny because I worked in New York City for many years and had a community there as well. It was slightly different because I've been at it a long time. And of course, that was a period where there were more studios, and of course, your first community was whoever worked at the studio, and you tended to sort of, be amongst that community, and maybe that's where it began and ended. But I've been in Nashville 10 years now, and the first place I noticed sort of these peer groups, sort of groups of people who work together, were with the musicians. They all seem to tend to, there's a certain number of keyboard guys, guitar player guys, what have you, who tend to work together. And
hang on a second. Hang on.
Yeah, sure.
Hang on.
Yeah,
We're coming up on a break. It's about to cut us off. All right, let's pick that up as soon as we get back from this little break. This is Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, your voice of music biz. We'll be right back.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element, affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, behind the velvet rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome back to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, the voice of the music biz. We are on with Joe Palmaccio, who owns The Place for Mastering in Nashville. Previously to that, he was with Sony Battery Studios in New York City, and also Sterling, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I had a long run there in New York. So yeah, I was with Sterling Sound before Sony, and worked for Polygram Records in New York before that. They had a studio as well. So
that's right. Very cool. Okay, well, we were talking about various different communities and how you first started seeing stuff with the musician community was such a community, but it wasn't necessarily there with studios.
Yeah. I mean, I think so, I think the difference is, like I said, I think there's always been a certain amount of community, like with engineers or whatnot. But it's there's like a creative exchange that I find going on now, where someone won't just want like a recommendation for a studio or a mixer or whatnot, but they'll want to know like sort of, well, who should I work with? What's best for my music? And that's what I'm finding is sort of the newest thing for me, and like sort of my experience as far as people who contact me at the Place for Mastering and will want some help, because of course they can look at the phone book or whatever, Google studios here or there and pick one, but that's sort of not enough. They sort of want like a personal recommendation. You're like, well, why should I use this place and why should I work with this person? So that's a change. To me that's a little different than it used to be. I would say that's more of a current thing.
Yeah, I'm noticing a difference also in the last 5 or 6 years where every studio and popped up with a little studio all the way up to the big studios were competition. And now people who've gotten and are doing it themselves and stuff were also competition because they were trying to do it all themselves as opposed to going to the studios. So they were actually competing against the studios for their own business, you could say. And now people are realizing, listen, I'm doing the songwriting and the performances and I'm recording it and everything. I can't kill myself on trying to get this mixed correctly, and I need to hire someone to actually do this part correctly. And I'm seeing that more and more and more where suddenly people are realizing, hey, let's take advantage of all these various different parts as opposed to trying to do the entire thing themselves, which is a really cool change.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I know, like, one of the messages, like, I have tried to get out, and I feel like I'm not going to claim I'm the only person to try to get it out, but, like, over the years, I would run into folks, and they would, they'd come in, and we'd be mastering a project, and they'd be like, gosh, I had my last record mastered, and I just didn't like it, so I decided to just use my mixes and not master them. And, I said, well, that's just so silly, because, you figure if you didn't like the mixes you got the first time around, you wouldn't have not mixed your record. You would have had somebody else mix them. I said, so maybe if you had a bad experience in the mastering, maybe it was just that person you were working with. Maybe you guys just didn't see eye to eye, or you had a different style, or whatever it was. So, it's like you're saying, it's like ask for help. Don't assume like if you can't get it done yourself, whatever it is, whether it's songwriting, hiring musicians, hiring a mixer, hiring a studio, if you have an experience, you're like, this just isn't working. I'm going to blame the process. It may not be the process. It might just be sort of the circumstances under which you're working or the person you're working with.
And you bring up a good point, because you see people looking for engineers based on equipment, because really that's all they have to grasp onto. This person has a picture on Facebook of them standing in front of a ridiculously huge SSL console that they don't even own and have never actually worked on, but were able to take a selfie by. So they get hired to mix based on something like that, when the most important thing is actually something that Michael Romanowski said. I'll give him credit. He might have stole it from somewhere else, but I plan to steal it from him. And that's the most important piece of equipment that I have is my opinion. And I also add to that my interpretation, because really that's what you need to look for in a mastering engineer, in a mix engineer, in a producer, in a drummer, in a guitar player, is that person's interpretation, that person's opinion of how they present the art, because it's all about art.
I completely agree. I so completely agree with that. I mean, I think especially for me at this point, having lived through so many technology changes, and that I can honestly tell you that and you and I, we talk about gear all the time, but it's just not that important to me. It's just it's just more like how can I get this piece of music to the place where I think it's going to have like its maximum impact from sonically, emotionally, whatever it is, just the musical connection to the listener. And so you're right, that how do I do that? That's all just my ear and inside my brain and my heart. And it is my opinion. Michael's absolutely right about that. And I would also agree with you that does extend to everybody who works on it. That's anybody who participates, you're wanting what they can bring to it. And of course, as an individual, we all bring something unique. You're a guitar player. You could have 5 guitar players come in the room, play the same part, but they would not sound the same. It just, you put them, you could call them on 5 different sessions, same track, but everybody would interpret it differently. And it's not even a matter of good or bad. It's just a matter of, well, what's the best thing for the song that we're working on at the time. So no, I completely agree with that sentiment.
I've had many people in the studio, in Eclectica Studios, where we brought in one of my session players, and we'll say a drummer, for instance, bring in a session drummer, and they are trying to micromanage right down to every beat and where the hi-hat goes. And I just shake my head and tell them, listen, let the professional do what they do. The whole reason you're hiring them is because you tell them, this is the basic groove, and let them do their thing. And it really comes down to the same type of thing with mixing and mastering.
I think so, and I would go as far as to say that, some of the, I've just been so lucky in my career. I've worked with so many just crazy talented people, and the ones that we all know and we respect, and even if we don't know them personally, we know their work. Most of them, that's how they work. Most of the great producers I worked with, they hire people and then they just let them do their thing, because they're like, I hired this guy or gal because they know what they're doing. I'm going to let them go. That of course there's exceptions to that rule, but
yes.
The exception is that if you are going to be that person, you better be a genius. Because otherwise everybody's going to get really frustrated really fast, and at the end of the day, you may not wind up with what you thought. The frustration may turn into a piece of art that's not quite what you thought it was going to be when you conceived of it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it is one of those things. And, it's hard. Some people have a hard time letting go. Some people are control freaks, and so that's a big part of what we do too, is just, building that trust. And some engineers, musicians, what have you, are just so good at building that trust. Like the minute they walk in the room, they make people comfortable, and there are others who are not, so there's like a personal dynamic that goes on, and that, of course, that plays into it too. But I would agree that if you're hiring somebody and you hired them because either you've heard something that they've done, or they were highly recommended by someone you trust, the first thing is just let them sort of present you with what they think. And then, at that point, like even with me, because that's what I ask of people when they work with me. I'm like, I like to know, like, what are you thinking about your music? What are you sort of wanting me to do? And sometimes they'll have sort of a specific thing. Other times they'll be like, I don't really know. You just tell me what you think, And I'm always glad to do that. I'm always glad. I'm like, okay, let me do my interpretation of it and get it back to you, and then let's have a conversation about it. And I find that we always work best that way. Like that, it's whether they love what I did the first time or we adjust it. It takes a little bit of a path to kind of figure out, us finding a path to getting it to where they want it to be.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in this segment. Just as a little warning, since you don't have the clock in front of you, also that I do. What's the one thing you wish your clients knew prior to sending you a project for mastering?
Well,
what's the one thing seems like everyone runs into the same issue kind of thing?
I think the schedule would be one of the big things, is like not leaving themselves quite enough time. It sounds silly, but people do it all the time. Like they'll book a session, and let's just pick a date. Like we're going to book a session on July 17th, and okay, that's fine. We do that, and then it gets a little closer, and then they tell me, oh, and we need everything shipped to the whatever it is, the record pressing plant, July 18th, and I'm like, well, when were you going to listen to it? When are you going to listen to the work? And make sure, it's like we've taken all this time. You've taken all this time to do this so carefully, and now you didn't leave any time to make sure the master was right. So that's one. That seems to come up a lot.
I have that often too with revisions. People want to know how long it's going to take for me to mix a song. And I said, well, let's say I can do it on Wednesday, this week. I can fit it in, and it will be my Wednesday mix, and I will have it to you Thursday, because I do a listen through again Thursday morning before sending it to you. And then I send it off to you on Thursday. You listen to it for a day or two, have everyone in the band listen to it, whoever's involved, get all the revisions together, send it back to me. I will do the revisions at that point and send them to you. And depending on how many revisions, we could be 2 weeks down the road before we're done with the mix, or we could nail it in the first shot. So it's really hard to nail down that, oh, okay, yes, we will have it by this amount of time. And having a big cushion is super important, especially if there's lots of songs.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, you got to leave yourself time, people.
Yeah, I noticed with mastering, you're looking at the entire album. So boom, the album goes out, as opposed to in mixing, maybe one song, maybe 3 songs will show up so far on the album. And then as we're finishing those up, 3 more will show up. And it can really spread time out, as well as people can start getting confused over what revision is for what. And we have a very strict way of keeping all that stuff listed out. So, all right, we're coming into a break. When we come back, even though you had said during this segment you don't like equipment, we're going to talk about equipment. So this is Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, voice of the internet, or voice of the music biz. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page, mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element, affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, behind the velvet rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome back to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, the voice of the music biz. I want to give a shout out to a couple people, Source Connect by Source Element, which helps make all of this happen, and also the Blackbird Academy. I forgot to say at top of the hour, congratulations to the graduating class that just happened over the weekend. Yes, I'm seeing all of your photos on Facebook. I remember when I was in the class with you guys, and I am just very happy you guys have all completed, and congratulations to you all. So we're on with Joe Palmaccio, and we're going to start talking about some gear and some other stuff. So I know gear, and we've already discussed this, is not the important thing, but there's certain things there are as far as what pieces of gear do you find fit your workflow and are your favorite to use because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, no, it's not true that I don't like gear.
I know.
It's, one of the things that's happened, I think, of lately is that there's a lot of great stuff. I think we've seen improvements, just massive improvements in a lot of gear over the years. I've been just knocked out with a lot of the boutique hardware. I think that's been a place where we've seen huge improvements. A lot of microphones, man, it's just microphones sort of blow my mind. And of course, I use them for much less frequently than most of the people I work with. But that's been one thing. And of course, software. I mean, the software. I remember when I started, there was no software. There was a software for making labels. And then early, the earliest workstations were just editors. You'd record on them and sort of put things in order, and that was that. But my God, now software is at the center of sort of all audio production, and it's quite remarkable. And it of course, it's remarkable from a creative standpoint, but it also sounds pretty spectacular. But yeah, I think for me, of course, some of the really essential parts, at least from a mastering standpoint, are still the room, the acoustic of the room, and then the loudspeakers. That, I think, of course, is the one thing that you can't fake, if you will. You've got to sort of know what's going on in your room, what you're hearing back, because in a mixing situation, you may have, several days or a couple weeks to live with something, and, you've got much more of a micro focus. You're sort of working on all these elements, but the mastering process is pretty quick. I mean, it's rare to spend more than a day, really mastering an album, maybe two, and then maybe a few hours to do revisions or whatnot. So having that sort of trust and playback and sort of the immediacy of when you hear something, exactly where that mix sits relative to other mixes in its genre or style. So I'd say that's a big one, and then in part and parcel to that, of course, is D to A conversion, particularly now because I think as you and I have discussed, D to A conversion can become an issue with codecs. With all the coding of audio that we're doing to sort of compress files, the D to A's that are less good, let's just say, really don't show the weaknesses of what's going on in the codec. So in other words, if you have an excellent playback system with really excellent D to A conversion, you can much more easily hear what's going on as you're coding in music. So that's been a real super duper important part always, but maybe even more so today with the way we're having digital music sort of be distributed.
Right. So
those are a couple things that I would say are sort of the essential things for what I'm doing at the moment. And then, of course, having a great workstation is essential to mastering setup, because you're managing a lot of audio in a lot of different formats, and so it's in other words, it's not the same thing for every project. And so
correct.
There's that aspect of the workstation, and then there's the aspect of in the master room, there's sort of certain production workflows and tools that you need as any piece of software. So I'd say those are sort of the general things that are most important to my setup these days.
Cool. Do you do much mastering at this point for LP? Because obviously we're hearing a lot of buzz about LPs coming back onto the scene.
Well, I do. In fact, I do a lot of it now. Of course, I don't have a lathe anymore. And people who've known me a long time know that I cut a ton of records when I was in New York. I had lathes in my room at Sterling. I had a lathe at Sony. And so I did a lot of cutting back in those days. Now, when I moved to Nashville, I did not set up a lathe. And so people still want my help, though, with vinyl mastering. So what I do is I will do masters that are specifically set up for cutting, and then I work with a few different cutting engineers. So basically I can send them a high-res file that's been mastered for vinyl, and hopefully they can cut it as flat as I've given it, as flat as they can, the way I've given it to them, because I'm sort of trying to take into account level and high-frequency information and whether or not the bass needs to be put through an elliptical EQ or whatever, things like that the stereo is kind of set up right so that they can get a good cut. So I do feel like all my cutting experience really gives me sort of a leg up on that, because I kind of know sort of what the pitfalls are of trying to cut, a modern record or any record for that matter. The rules really haven't changed, to tell you the truth. So I do quite a bit of it, but I don't have a lathe.
Dig it. And it's interesting to think actually about the future. If records keep coming into fashion, going out of fashion, coming into fashion and stuff, over the next 20 to 30 years, as people like yourself, I think Brad Blackwood, I think it's another one, Scott Hull, all of these guys that are so knowledgeable with actually cutting records, as they retire and such, there's not really a new amount of people that are coming in that have that kind of experience to bring to it, because it is a completely different world that you don't really learn in a day. You don't learn it in 6 months either. It takes a long time to really get, because it's a lot different than just making an MP3.
I would agree. I mean, cutting engineers, it's a whole different skill set, and it is sort of one of those craft type careers. In other words, you learn the basics, and then you only get good at it by doing it. And of course, there's a few new guys sort of starting out trying to do it, and I think it's admirable, and I'm happy, and that they are. Of course, one of the big problems is that the lathes are sort of all being cobbled together now, because there haven't been any lathes made in decades, and so I think that is the big problem going forward.
Yes. Yeah. As gear dies.
How do we keep the lathe working?
Yep. I was just at Universal Pressing in Nashville, taking a tour there and such. All of their gear is the original gear, and as things die, they strip it off the parts machine and try to keep the main machines all still working and stuff. And that's all. If no one steps up to start manufacturing certain things, then definitely formats will have to disappear strictly out of, it's no longer available. We saw that with tape when all the tape manufacturers started disappearing. Now the tape manufacturers are coming back, and people like myself are grabbing onto machines, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Do you get many analog tapes in for mastering?
Not anymore, not so much. It's funny, when I set up shop here 10 years ago, I had 3 tape machines, and just because, everything had come in on tape for the longest time, and it was still a big part of it. And that wasn't even, I had digital machines too, if you can believe that. I had dash machines, and I still have that stuff, just all in storage. But now not really. I did an analog project last quarter, and honestly, it was not a newly mixed recording. It was some mixes that had been done in the 90s, and they needed to be digitized and mastered. So I did that, but it's less and less and less at this point for me personally. Yeah,
I believe it's less for most people. I know, as myself, having having a tape machine available is simply going to be a hardware plug-in. As in, I'm mixing to the tape machine, tape's printing it on. It's printing onto tape. The repo head's reading it off of it, and it's going right back into the machine, into the same loop that I would have stuck a master bus compressor kind of thing.
Right.
So I'd still be delivering a digital format to the mastering.
Yeah, and I think that's, of course, we saw, I'm trying to remember, like years ago when the 2-inch 8-track head stack had been built, so you could track drums like that. Basically like record, drums through the 8-track, record on the record head, come right off the repro head, right into the workstation, just so you could get some of that tape effect, in your sound. So I totally understand that. I think that is probably going to be, a common thing like that you're doing. It probably already is, but it's still a valid technique to work like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. If it sounds good, it's a valid technique. That's all I have to say.
I completely agree.
So, in your working, I know that you had we had talked a year or two ago about you were getting a MacBook Pro to be able to do basically a virtual studio, a separate setup. I know you have that obviously for recording drums and everything, but I believe you were talking at the time with me about being able to remotely work on stuff for mastering. Do you have a setup like that?
I do have one. It's and yet it's still a bit of a work in process. But there's only really one reason. The computer side, the software side, it's been rock solid. It totally works. I even have an external, a fancy DAC that I carry around that can so I have a really good playback because we're talking about DACs being important. But I still it's still hard for me to work without speakers.
Right.
And I've bought several. I have probably too many pairs of really, really high-end, headphones and in-ear monitors, and I've actually spent a lot of money on that. And I think it's a comfort thing. I think it's sort of a comfort and confidence thing. So I continue to do it because I just think it's sort of interesting. And I've done this a couple times because I still have a couple, I have many awesome colleagues that still work in New York, and I have occasion to go there, and I will bring the setup with me, and then if I really get stuck, I can call one of them and sort of go and take a left and right out of my setup and listen on their speakers to make sure that
there you go. Perfect. Okay, we're on a break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. We're listening to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, the voice of the music biz. We'll be right back.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, Behind the Velvet Rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element, affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit mozeguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome back to Sound Experience. So that really shows off your networking, because if you are working remotely in a place like New York City and you need to be able to have, sit in a room and actually listen to this, if you hadn't kept up on all the contacts that we've talked about in the first segment with the community, you wouldn't have those resources available.
Well, yes, that's true, and that's I think it's super important to me. Like there's sort of this idea about all of us having like our tribe, and it's because we all have these studios and we all sort of work in them alone now, and that's the beauty of the tech, is that we can be sort of anywhere. You could be in Austin, I could be in Nashville. We can work together. I have colleagues in New York. I have colleagues in Europe that I work with regularly, and the tech lets us do that, and that's fantastic. But I need my tribe. Like I need to be around my people. It's just like, it's really, really important for me. And of course I'm there for them. Like if they need something too, I'm all about it. And it's just been one of those things that's been really important to me my whole career. And I'm just lucky that I have, a lot of good friends that happen to be my colleagues too, that we can do this with. And it's true. I mean, I can be in probably any major market in the U.S. and make one of those phone calls, and I've got a friend there who will help me. So, I mean, I'm proud of that, and I'm also very grateful that I can do that. So,
absolutely. Well, when you're working remotely, obviously you're working in the box at the place for mastering, your studio in Nashville. You are very much doing a pitch capture kind of a setup for mastering, correct?
Yeah, I can, because I have sort of a hybrid. When I first set up, I was all hardware. And, of course, I still have all the hardware. None of it's there. It's all still in the studio. It's all still plugged in. It all still works. And so what I have found is that over time that, the pitch catch thing was definitely my technique. Basically, you pitch out, run through all the hardware, and then catch into another workstation. And that was, my technique for many, many, many years. And what started happening, I found over time, is that mixes, I would say, generally speaking, have gotten better overall. And what I mean by that, I don't mean that today's mixes are better than yesterday's mixes. I just mean that there's a consistency that I hear from the people I work with regularly, and the quality of the mixes themselves are really quite high. And what I was finding is when I would take a really high-quality mix and sort of, drop it down to go into my hardware, and then I'd convert back to, because I've got to go back to digital, obviously, to get the product recorded, I'd be like, wow, I haven't done anything to this yet, but just sort of doing that drop and coming back has really taken something away from a mix that this person just sent me, and it's really, really good. So I said, well, let me see, what I can do to, not do that conversion. And that has, I would say, over the last few years has led me down this path of, of just, ignoring the hardware in many instances as a result. So it's interesting. Like my technique changed based on the stuff I'm receiving. If that, if that, like, in other words, that made the change more so than anything I wanted to do. It's sort of like the work that was incoming has made me, alter that.
Do you think there was a time where there was the majority of mixes were happening in a place where it was just out of the box or just in the box, and now everyone's working in a hybrid kind of situation too, where you're starting to see a lot of, okay, it's coming from digital, going to analog, back to digital, when before it was staying in all in one format or the other. Do you think now with the extra format conversion, that is just the too much at this point? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe, because I think what I noticed was, obviously when I came up, people mixed on consoles with hardware, and usually there was, tape at all the stages. And most of the times that was analog tape. And so, the guys who were really good at it really developed these amazing techniques of working that way. And again, it probably goes back to something I said earlier, which was it didn't really matter which console they mixed on or whatever. They were just really good. They could come up with a great mix.
Right.
And so then, we all know that technology changed, and so the large format console started to disappear, and then we saw the analog tape machine disappear in lieu of a multi-track workstation or what have you. And it started to sound a little funky. Like, it's like, ooh, maybe this isn't as good as, the analog tape machine. And I think what that was is it was growing pains. I think you were seeing, like, again, like the techniques weren't quite there. The tech was changing so fast. And it's hard for people to keep up because, again, like as we've discussed, engineering, it's a craft thing. You got to do it to get good at it. And that also is true of, when you change the tools that a person has, they need a moment to get good at using those tools. And so fast forward a little bit, a few years ago, I started working with a couple of, younger engineers who, they were just in their 20s, super talented guys who had never ever mixed on consoles. And they started sending me mixes where they had just worked in the box. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, this stuff sounds so good. And it was a real epiphany for me because it sort of reinforced that thing I had always theoretically thought, which it's just the person operating this thing and their technique, So, it's as far as like, should you convert, should you go in the box? I never tell anybody. I'm like, you should do whatever you like, whatever works for you. Like you said, if it sounds good, it's a good technique. Like you had said that about dropping to the tape machine and coming back. And I'm so behind that. Like if it creatively feels right, then that's what you should do. But I'm also not dogmatic. Like I'm not like, I won't criticize someone who just mixes everything in the box. I'm like, hey, if it sounds good and you did it all on a computer, good for you. Great.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Well, also digital has changed too. So the people who were working mostly in the box or even partly in the box, I'm sorry, but the A to D and D to A converters on ADAP machine don't sound like a MyTech, or any of the good ones that are out today. So a lot has changed also, which has helped a lot because I remember when I switched from Logic for Windows back in 2002 to Samplitude, I went from having a system that I needed to have a analog summing bus to work with and have it sound halfway decent to I could do it all in the box and it sounded fantastic because technology had jumped along so much. And it really made a difference. So that really opens some things up. Okay, last thing, while we only have a couple minutes left, one of the things you had written me about was the loudness war, and it's finally over. So your statement on why the loudness war is finally over.
Well, I think it is, and here's what I think, and I don't know if everybody. I mean, people may really disagree, but I'm going to tell you what I think. The reason I say it's over is because it's just easy to make something loud now. I mean, it used to sort of be a challenge. There were sort of techniques and ways to get things loud, and people had proprietary ways to do it. Now, we've got software, and everybody has access to it, and you can make a loud recording pretty easily. So that's the first reason. But probably the more important reason is, and this is what I do, as you know, I do a lot of talking at the conventions, lecturing about mastering and whatnot, is I say, if we take loudness away, in other words, if we say we assume that every recording can be as loud as the next, what is the criteria for deciding what a great recording is? That's a very puzzling question for a lot of people because it goes to the core of them as listeners, because as you and I, we've discussed it, we know with our clients, if you give them something that's a dB louder, they think it's better than the last thing you gave them.
Correct.
So if we take that away from them, if we take the ability, if we level the playing field with everybody and we assume that everything could be at the same level, then what becomes the criteria for what is a great recording, a great mix, a great master?
Wow. Okay. We're out of time. We're going to leave it with that, and that is something to think about. Really is. Thank you so much for being on the program today and sharing your wisdom, and I hope you come back and we can continue forth. Also say hi to Alex for me.
You're so welcome, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this has been Sound Experience with Tim Dolbear, signing off from Eclectica Studios in Austin, Texas. Remember, you can always reach out to me at timdolbear.com. Find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, my blog, studio information. It's all there. Now, go make some music.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element, affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
Which sandwich is healthy and tasty? Which sandwich can come on bread or in a bowl? Which sandwich comes 51 different ways, so it's always your way? A which sandwich. Stop into our shop in Hazard Center. We're upstairs from the Hazard Center Digiplex. Bring in your movie ticket. We will add a free drink and chips to your sandwich order. Or order online at whichwich.com, and we will have it ready and waiting. WHICH, whichwich.com.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, behind the velvet rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. MOZEguitars.com, 619-698-1185.